Brewing your future from the past. And I think that's all I have for intro. But Annie is here with us. She's flown in to join us for the homebrew competition. Hopefully some of you have already judged with her. If not, let us know, and we can try to make sure your afternoon judge pair goes and judges with her. Yeah, I think I'll hand it off.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me here. I think I've judged with most of you, and I've been really enjoying myself, and big thanks to David for picking me up. And I don't think Air Canada is that bad. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. What I really found interesting was the French that they speak on board. But it was cool. It was great. I'm looking forward to experiencing Air Canada again tomorrow. Anyway, I'm going to give a short talk. I'm not big on slides, maybe because I don't put them together well. And then this is our break, and we're hungry, and we've been judging. We have a lot more judging, and I want you to have time to relax and regroup, because what we're here for are the homebrewers. So I hope everyone's been enjoying themselves doing the judging. I've been really impressed with the beers so far. Especially the lager scene is pretty strong. So I'm going to lay that title on you, Retrofuturism. I am from the West Coast of the United States, and if we think of a concept, we'll come up with a kooky word, and it's kind of our reputation. I call this homebrewing your future with the past. So it's a little bit about my philosophy on homebrewing and brewing in general, and when I talk to breweries and do some consultancy work to try to get them to think about different ways to brewing, because there are a lot of pressures with trend chasing, which doesn't always work for some, and we're at a real weird time in brewing now. It's great, but it's bad all at the same time, and the same thing with homebrewing. So I'm just gonna thank you so much. I think you know who I am. I'm the big black lady in the corner, and why I'm here. Those are just some of the things that I've done in my homebrewing history. I had a really good time when I worked for a small Seattle company called Pico Brew. If anybody knows what that is, I might talk about it just for a few minutes later in the presentation. My new thing that I'm doing now is, in the States, we've put together the National Black Brewers Association. It was started by former NBA star Kevin Johnson. He's actually from Sacramento. He was our mayor as well, but he owns a brewery that a lot of people don't know. He does Oak Park Brewing, it's really a fabulous brewery. They opened up in a part of the town that has a reputation of being poor and a little bit crime-ridden, but they make some great beers, and they're big on collaboration. So if you have ideas for that, please let me know, because I'll pass it along to them. But we're doing some great things. We just established National Black Brewers Day that we passed through a legislative vote in California on October 10th, so that was a big deal. So I don't really know what my job will be on that, but I'm really looking forward to it. And then I also do write a small column for Craft Beer and Brewing Magazine. We just switched to all digital, but it's all for homebrewers. I mostly do articles on extract and partial mash brewing, which I'm a huge fan of. I like all grain brewing, like all grain brewers here. Yeah, and you go back and forth depending on what kind of time you have. And I'm a big lover now in my 25th year of homebrewing of saving time. Even when I'm trying to do decoction. So we'll there. Seattle, I have a home in Seattle. That's where my family is, but I happily work in Sacramento, California. I get home every 6 weeks. So it'll be nice tomorrow when I do leave your fair city. I'll be going home, which is kind of cool to be home. Oh wait, could you go back a little bit, minute? we'll save that line for later. What the hell happened to Pico Brew? Next. But I like that picture of Seattle because when I flew in here to Toronto, it kind of reminded me of the skyline with your Canadian National Tower, which is much bigger. And it's a little bit, this is a big city. But we'll talk about retrofuturism. I don't need to read that. I can let you read that. Kind of the art and science of beer. I don't know if you've heard that term, but you think about it when you're homebrewing. You're a little bit of you are a creator. You draw on experiences, but then there is that science aspect. But it is an extremely creative process. We all are brewers. We usually fall in the one group or the other. But I talk about retrofuturism because I like to think about history. I'm very big on history, about a lot of things, but especially about beer history. And I like to think about what early brewers and the things that they were going through at the time to anticipate the reception of what they were creating and why they were doing it. And then also us as here in the present, how we can think about the past and those experiences and think about the anticipation that early brewers had, say Joseph Grohl, we can switch the slide, or alewives, or you can, this is that one cookie one where you can bring them all in. What they were thinking about, and if we remember that type of anticipation, how we can use that to infuse our brewing now. Kind of the pitfalls of homebrewing is you run into the mundane, I gotta churn out an IPA, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And that's where we kind of fall and our lulls go, and then some of us jump out of the hobby, but we gotta find ways to get back into it. So I think about that retrofuturism. I have it tagged up in my brewing area at home, in my garage, so I can always think about. So, you know, we do it as a pleasure, as a hobby, but in the past, it was a real part of business, especially for alewives and early brewers, even in early Egypt in 3000 BC or so, when the women were brewing for the men to conduct business. And it was the better brew got the better business. These are some of the things that we'll talk about too. It's kind of my wacky table of contents. And I'm also big on questions. So if I'm talking about something that doesn't make any sense, or something just pops in your head and you want to talk about it, I really want to make this interactive so you don't just hear me flap up here and we can really talk. Because I do have some questions for you guys to help me. These are, when I talk about history, Ninkasi and alewives, we talk a lot in the States, I think you probably do here as well in Canada, about diversity in brewing, and we have a tendency to forget history and remember that women were primarily the brewers of the home and in business, creating for business opportunities. And then, you know, also on the homestead as well. Ciders, you know, you see those old-timey pictures where there's a big barrel sitting on the porch, and was usually full of cider, and the women were the major force behind it up until about the Joseph Grohl's time, when business and men really, and this is not I'm not a man hater at all. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that when there was a real chance to make money, real money for it, that's when women really kind of dropped out of the industry and were kind of pushed to just brewing at home. Next slide. And I want to talk to you about the retrofuturism and these modern interpretations. You know, they are of beer, breweries, homebrewers, equipment manufacturers. When I think about beer, is it something that we have that was invented, and then are we just reinventing? Are we changing it? I don't know about you, but if there's one more IPA style that's created, I might jump out the window. I don't know how, you got to help me, I'm a little ignorant on the Canadian beer scene, but if it's as crazy as it is out in the States, it's nuts. I think I talked about this when we were chatting at your wonderful Godspeed Brewery. If there's a new style coming out, I'm just going to tell you what it is now. It's the cold wheat IPA. So, yay. Exactly. So, spoiler alert, a toppy. But yeah, again, the trend chasing, it's got to be miserable to be a professional brewer at times, because you're like, I'm gonna make what I want to make. I'm gonna make, and then you're gonna make IPA. But it's just next slide. Also, when and this whole retro futurism for me is a concept. When I talk about brewing and the inspiration for brewing, those are my inspirations there. I know you probably have your own. When you how many brewers here that have been doing it for like over a decade, 2 decades? There's quite a few, over 2 decades. Look at that over there at the lonely side of the room. Yeah, exactly. And it's great you're here, because this hobby, people, they really tend to drop out. But I want to impart to the newer brewers, the 10 and under, the 5 years and under, about having inspirations, finding that beer. For me, it's always about creating a flavor memory. When you were a kid and maybe your folks or an aunt or a grandparent made you that favorite meal, and you tattoo that in your brain. And for me with beer, it's that one beer, maybe 2 beers that you have, and you think, that might be the best thing I've ever had, and it kind of sits with you. It sits with you for years. You're like, I'm in homebrewing now. Am I going to be able to make that inspiration? So I really want you to think about that, and think about in the past. Maybe you were on a trip. Maybe you went to Europe. Maybe you went to the States. You went to Japan, somewhere down in Australia, somewhere where you had that flavor memory, and get that inspiration. And those breweries that make it, for me, it's Pilsner or Quell. I've kind of built my whole brewing around about everything Pilsner or Quell, because I adore the Czechs. I can't understand a word they say, but I love them. They're very friendly, but the beer that they make, they just don't compromise. There's no compromising with their ingredients. There are some more modern, small craft breweries there, but they really stick to their roots, and it works for me. It may not work for everyone. And then Saison, God love the Belgians, because they'll just brew whatever they want to make. I love it. That's what I'm talking about, the art and the science of beer. They're so artistically and creatively focused, and you get what you get. And I like that wild side of brewing that's not so regimented. And then homebrewers, when I come here, or when I go to events, or when I talk to people, or I go to conferences, and I talk to homebrewers, I'm just sometimes, well, most of the time, I'm blown away by what everyone's brewing, because there are things, I'm not really a know-it-all, but there are a lot of know-it-all homebrewers, blowhards. You know who they are, Gordon. Don't say that. No, he's a great guy. But it's you can always learn something from someone. So I've been learning quite a bit today, and I'm sitting at the table, and I think I know what I'm doing. And then someone will mention something, I'm like, you're very right on that. So you can always get an inspiration, not just from something, a professional brewery or brewer, but your own fellow home brewer. So I just want you to kind of keep these general points in mind. Next slide. Icons, to me, that goes a little bit to homebrewers. That I'm a huge baseball fan. I think David knows that. That there is Denise Jones. She's probably one of the top brewers in the world. She now works for Fermentis. So, anybody big dry yeast lovers here? If you're not, you should be, because you know, the variety isn't as big as some of the liquid yeast, but do not be afraid of dry yeast. Dry yeast stores well. You can count on the cell count. It's a wonderful thing. I'm not a paid shill. I'm just a big fan of fermented yeast. For a house yeast, it's wonderful. But Denise is a Giants fan, so this is our rivalry of A's and Giants fans loving each other. But Denise was the first winner, and actually put together she hates it, you know, kind of, triple IPA, and she did that. She won multiple times for Great American Beer Festival, but also very accessible. But she was also the spokesperson for Environment Malts, which was really unique for an American to be picked by Environment to do that. But she's been a personal hero when I first started homebrewing, and she was brewing in the Bay Area in California, and always took the time. So when I talk about the inspirations and people, it's those people that help you and take the time, especially a professional brewer. It means a lot when you're a home brewer to talk with professional brewers. And I know there's some here judging today. Are you here? Exactly. I judge with both of these gentlemen, and very kind. And I don't think that's a Canadian thing. You guys are wonderfully kind. I love it. But you know, getting questions from them, and it can really help your brewing. And then Danny, does anybody like Fantôme? Yeah, the cookie Belgian. So the Fantôme's a wonderful beer, because sometimes you open it and it'll shoot all over your kitchen, and you're like, rats, because you know you don't have that. And other times, it's well, most times it's quite wonderful. I went on a work trip to Berlin, but took time to go to Danny's brewery in Soy, Belgium. It's this little hamlet, and he doesn't speak any English, and my Flemish is, I don't speak any Flemish, you know, and it's not even remotely like French. So I went there, and we just knew that we were going to meet at 3 o'clock, and I got there, and we just sat there and we stared at each other. And he smokes like a chimney. And then he gave me a tour of his brewery, and it's this 300-plus-year-old farmhouse. And it's the kind where you look at it, you know those trucks that drive down the freeway? They're going this way, but they're supposed to be going straight, but the body's on weird. That brewery was tilting, it was listing. And then he said, he's like, give me a tour of the brew house. It's just kind of like pointing and I'm not grunting, but like, let's go, lady. So we went up some stairs, and he's tiny. He's a tiny fella, and so I declined because the stairs were like toothpicks. Everything in that place looked like it was gonna break. But he famously bottles everything himself. But if you get there, and he still has a brewery, I highly recommend it. And then on the bottom, that's Václav Burka. He's the brewmaster for Pilsner Quell. And when I won that competition, it was really cool. I went over separately than the other winners went, so I got to spend time with them at the brewery and actually brew a batch of beer, which was very nice. But he's a wonderful man, and I noticed at Godspeed they have the vats here. I said, how'd you get those? And they said, well, we just asked. And I thought, well, that's very Czech, because that was my same experience when I was there. Anything you wanted, they're like, sure. Oh, people get afraid to ask, so that's another thing. Just, you got a 50-50 shot if you ask. Next slide. And then, as I've been talking, how does this pertain to me and my home brewing, and should I care? Of course, you should care. That's my little North Seattle homebrewers up at the top. You know, we've had about 6 brewers from our club go professional in Seattle, and they're all still in business, which is a great thing. And then that's a friend of mine who I met at Great American Beer Festival, who went into brewing. So he's just opening up his brewery. He's in Tennessee. On the top picture there is that's a best of show judging for homebrew in the California State Homebrew Competition. And we can get anywhere from 7 to 1,000 entries on homebrew. So it takes a month. We combine it with the professional brewers as well. Let's go to the next one. I'm getting to the slides where I want to talk to you, so I'm just getting through this stuff. And I'm going to leave that, so if you ever want to send me a note, use my horrible handles, because I created them so long ago, I thought it was a joke. I thought Twitter, oh, this is a joke. So I'll just put Buffalo Wing. And I've been approached by Buffalo Wild Wings. Will you sell us your handle? I'm like, well, you know, I'm thinking, send me some wings, but I can't. They're like, they just want them. Like, well, you don't get it. And then hot dogs, because we had a fellow poster on our Oakland A's forum that we made fun of, because he's like, I love baseball and the smells of hot dogs. So I thought, I'm going to be the smells of hot dogs. But that was the key that they gave me to the brewery when I won that competition, and then they took it back. They didn't get it. I'm like, I don't get that. Next slide. So I'm leaving these slides with you. This is my secret sauce for decoction mashing. This is what I do. That's helped me win multiple awards for that. I know you probably have all your own methods. I just make it very small. We don't have to go through this, but you'll have it if you need it. All I can tell you is when you do it, enlist a friend, but make sure it's somebody that you like. And don't drink when you're doing. I always say that anyway. Don't drink when you homebrew. You will notice a huge difference. And then I had to throw in something for John Palmer. So there's your data water slide. I also teach a class at my old alma mater at University of California, Davis, on beer, and we do water. Boy, that's when the room really goes to sleep. I'm telling you. Yeast, I know I saw just a few hands for dry yeast, and I know you love your escarpment, right? And but you know what? You'll never know what other yeast providers can give you until you try them. I think I told someone the other night, my Belgian beers are always Y yeast, and then I have favorites for my Czech beers, and those are from White Labs. And then my house beers are always fermentus. But I have, you have to find out what's out there. I have a few that I don't like as much, but I'm not going to tear anybody down. It's all good. But find what you need. But with lagers, especially if you're a lager brewer, you really need to find out something that works for you, and especially if you're entering a competition. You know, those style guidelines, you know how it is. And this is where I want to talk to you about the state of homebrewing, where I spill all my AHA secrets. It's not great. For any American Homebrewers Association members here, you probably don't get anything out of it, do you? I don't get anything really out of it either. That's kind of the if we're having a heart-to-heart and an honest moment, the state of homebrewing in the U.S. right now, it sucks. It's really gone downhill. Our membership's downhill. And I think, if we don't do, I don't want to be drastic here, but if there aren't changes that are made, I think that it could actually just collapse, because the AHA is part of the Brewers Association, And why I'm telling you this is because I'm big on transparency. Because isn't it terrible? You're like, I'm going to my favorite restaurant or my favorite brewery, and then you get a note the next day, oh, we closed. It's like, well, why didn't you let us know so we can help you? Secrets and lies are bad. So we are in a bad state in the States. And I want to ask you, as homebrewers, because last night Kathy Yan was here, and she's awesome, and she was on our governing committee, and she did a lot. She was left right before I joined, and I'm sad that she's not there because she seems to put a lot of effort into it and get a lot of cooperation from homebrewers and help with events. I mean, she drove here last night 3 hours to get here to judge, and then drove home. I mean, that's a serious commitment, and that's kind of falling apart in the state. So I love that you're GTA. I mean, look at all of you here, and you're wonderful. I mean, I'm here. That's awesome, you know. And then I look at your signage, and everyone really participates. What are your feelings, if you want to just shout something out, on ideas on why you're so successful? Because I see you as a major success as a homebrew group, and I know quite a few, and I know even my own North Seattle homebrewers is dwindling. It's not just because people are going professional or having kids or whatever. But I want to know what you think. Yeah, you want the mic?
That's okay, I can speak up.
Okay.
People are always dropping out, kind of like you said, but you know, 3 years ago, half the people in this room probably wouldn't have been here. Well, 3 years ago was COVID, but 4 years. But there's constantly new people coming in. There's people who've only been involved in the club for 1, 2, or 3 years who are still willing to step up and help organize things and kind of keep our ranks up, and that's awesome. Nice because somebody who used to volunteer a lot and help out now doesn't have as much time for it. It's nice to benefit, I guess, from that energy, that kind of replacement. Because you don't have that.
Do you think that if there was an event, a big, we have our homebrew con that bounces around from city to city, region to region, if it were closer to you, would any of you consider going? It's a multi-day event.
When it's close, people down this club have gone. Yeah.
Or entering competition with, I know the fee is high, but the fees were down.
Cross-border shipping. Yeah. And illegal.
What was that? What?
I said cross-border shipping's a pain, and then I said also illegal.
Yeah, it is, huh? Yeah.
This is a comment and observation from a long-time home brewer in Sydney, where I'm from. He said that there was... Thank you. Is that, well, for a country like Australia, in the mid-90s we had about 8 to 10 craft breweries. We now have well in excess, since then, we have well in excess of 800. Now, granted, we're not as big a country, and the comment was that brewing, as when craft beer started to be more mainstream, we were always a little bit slow to the uptake, and there was no people found living in the suburbs. If they weren't in the real downtown core of a city, there was no real nice beer available nearby, and the only way to do it was join the homebrew club and make it yourself. Since the explosion of breweries, I've heard, well, I don't feel I need to go out of the way to make my own beer anymore. There's great beer around the corner. It's a lot of effort. That was a comment given at one of our homebrew clubs in Sydney. Yeah.
And I'd like to hear from, where's my Toronto brewing owner? Where are you? I don't want to put him on the spot. How many homebrew shops are in this area? One. Just the one. Were there others?
Yes.
There were.
How was the food? But if you don't have any more questions, I'll wrap it up. So I know before we judge you might want to take a little, go to the bathroom and things. I'm such a mom there. Go to the bathroom now. But thank you for having me here. If you have technical questions or you want to know about specific styles or recipes, I'm way better at answering that than I was getting back to David about my travel out here. Man, that guy's built the patience. Because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm getting there. But please email me or send me a note on social, or if you want to do a one-on-one or another Zoom or whatever, I would love it. I think you people are wonderful, and I really like being here. It's great. And you've got a fair city that's quite gorgeous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our presentation. So we're going to move towards session 2 for Saturday. I'll get the flight assignments back up. At the moment, they haven't changed since what I sent out. So take a few minutes, stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, and then please get seated within a couple minutes for session 2.